I had an email recently from somebody who was struggling to present language and asking for my advice. This is such a common problem for CELTA trainees, so I thought I'd make a video about it. Arguably, the trickiest part of teaching language is focusing on language items in the classroom by clarifying relevant aspects of meaning, form and phonology to an appropriate depth. It's criteria 2E on the CELTA 5, and it's often where trainees and novice teachers struggle. Want some helpful hints on how to do this? Keep watching. I'm Jo Gakonga. I've been a CELTA trainer and assessor for over 20 years, and I have a website at elttraining.com with material for CELTA trainees, for novice English language teachers, and for those a little bit further down the line too. So, focusing on language items by clarifying relevant aspects of meaning, form and phonology to an appropriate depth. The key to this, as with many things in teaching and perhaps in life, is planning. And I've got two pieces of advice for you here. Number one is know your language. So before the lesson, you need to make sure that you know exactly what the language looks like and how it works. If you're teaching the present continuous, for example, you need to know all of its common meanings, current events, events around now, arrangements, irritation. You need to know the form of it. And also how it's usually pronounced in connected speech. It doesn't mean that you have to tell them all of this. It's your job to understand how it works so that you can help your learners down a simplified, level appropriate path that you're going to show them. Remember that we're looking for appropriate depth. So how much you have to know and how much you have to tell them are often not the same thing, usually probably not the same thing. So plan how you're going to do this and how you're going to check that they understand. And if you want some support with this, I've got courses on my site that will really help. The other piece of advice that I have for you is to actually practice what you're going to say to the learners. There's something about muscle memory in speaking that makes it easier to say in class if you've actually said it out loud beforehand, more than once. Thinking it in your head isn't the same. I don't know why, but it isn't the same. You need to actually say it out loud. Ideally, you want to do this in front of a real person. Your partner, a CELTA colleague, your dog, your mum. If none of these are available, then you could just do it in front of a mirror. That works too. And another good tip here is to record yourself saying it and listen back. It's really interesting how we can't really hear what we're saying when we're saying it. And a recording, it'll really point out to you what you need to improve. But you might be thinking, I can't practice the whole lesson. No, fair enough. But there are three parts that I would say that it's worth spending time on. The first one is instructions. It's surprising how tricky it is to give clear instructions, even when you know what you want the learners to do. I've got a whole nother video on this here, but definitely practice them. Number two is presentation. This is where you clarify the meaning, form and pronunciation of the language that you're teaching, and it's inevitably more of a teacher-led part of the lesson, but you should be asking your learners questions to check that they understand as you go along, and it's definitely worth practicing this. to keep it clear and concise. Finally, another part of the lesson that it's useful to practice is the feedback that you're going to give on your controlled practice exercises. Being able to give good feedback here means that you don't have to over-egg the pudding in the presentation stage. A lot of the language that you're teaching your learners won't be completely new to them, especially if it's grammar. So you can elicit the meaning, form and pronunciation from them, give them a practice exercise and use the feedback from this to make sure that they understand. That's why the feedback stage here is important. So going through these questions beforehand and making sure that you understand why they're correct, not just what the correct answer is, but why they're correct, will help you give you confidence when you're actually in the classroom and eliciting this from your learners. You obviously won't have to practice all of this out loud every time you teach, but if you do it the first few times, it'll start to build up that muscle memory and your confidence, and it'll make it easier as time goes on, I promise. Good luck with it and have fun. And if you want more help with your CELTA journey, then don't forget to visit the site.